Hey guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I see Deanna in the house. All right, just let me know you can hear me. Valerie, I'm doing great, thanks. But I need to know you guys can hear me. That's all. Just quick. Yes. Can you guys hear me? Thank you, Earthval. Earth One. Right? Do I say that every week? Okay, so good to see you guys. Happy Wednesday. What is this? The first Wednesday of 2026. Hope you guys had a great New Year's. Mine was nice. Now it's time to get down to business, right? All right. So I guess we'll just start. Let's see what we got. MD's in the house. MD 77 with lots to say. So I'm going to start with you, MD, because you were here bright and early. I knew that. I popped in to take a little glance as I was running around. So let's see what's going on. Oh, and for anybody who pops in and doesn't know who I am, Stephanie Joy with Joy Disability and the channel All Things Social Security. All right. So MD says, new pain doctor asked me if I had leg weakness. I answered him honestly, I didn't know that I had heaviness and fatigue in my legs. He did no manual muscle testing except the L4 quads. My problems, and I'll keep reading, too, are the L5 and S1. That's not the issue, remember, is about the functional limitations, though. So just try not to focus on which discs it is, because it honestly really doesn't matter, as long as there is a diagnosis that would cause it, right? And MD 77 goes on to say, now I'm afraid he wrote all my muscles are 5 without testing them. He doesn't have a patient portal, so I cannot see what he wrote. You can order his records. I don't know that it's going to be free, depending on your state, is whether he can charge you. But if you use that high-tech HIPAA form of release, and have them sent right to you, or the fax number you want, or the email you want, there is a big limit on what they can charge for those digital versions of your records versus a paper printed type of physical copy. I would say generally it's under $10. That's what I offer to all of my clients, and I've offered it to people here, and sometimes they ask for me, and I email it to them. So, or Liz does. So I would always use that. I don't know why anybody wouldn't. Some states, though, have a more protective law than even the feds, where you can get it for free. So you have to just look up what your state law is. But if you don't want to take the time to do that, which I totally understand, use the high-tech HIPAA format. But going back to your problem or your first question, new pain doctor asked me if I had leg weakness. I answered him, I honestly didn't know. I think your problem is probably that you didn't know how to describe it. Probably, heaviness. Why do they feel heavy? Because you're weaker, right? When we're weaker, everything seems heavy. So I bet you do have weakness. That would just be if I was a betting woman, that would be my bet. Pardon me, guys. I'm just going to shift this around. Fatigue. When your legs are tired, can you go and do 50 jumping jacks or whatever you can do when you weren't tired? Would your legs be strong enough to do 50 jumping jacks or climb 5 flights of stairs? Sometimes you got to use a little bit of that common sense that they've kind of stripped away from us, right? So it's not your fault. They've kind of beaten it out of us. But I don't know. I'm totally cutting wampus here with this screen. That's a cute little thing that my friend got me for Christmas. Isn't that cute? Of course, she gave it to me. We didn't see each other after Christmas, though. But I'm like, I'm putting it out. So in the future, give it some thought. Can your legs, if you do squats, that's an easy thing to test at home. Okay, how many can you do? If you do after one, are your legs super tired? Do you feel shaky? Then you probably have weakness. If it's not just, oh, it hurts, it's a pain in my back, that would be pain. That's not necessarily weakness, but just some things to think about. Like you didn't know that he was going to ask that probably. So Sorry, I'm still screwing around here, guys. Not really making a difference, though. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, so you can order your records. MD goes on to say, also, the Social Security CE examiner, Dr. Foster, said once that you did not have to have muscle weakness with radicular problems to win SSCI. I agree. Now, at the lower levels, you'll see some of those canned denial letters on initial and recon. People get really upset about this, and I always say, don't even worry about your denial letter, what's in it. It's just a canned letter, and they pull out any of their optional reasons for denial if they didn't find it in the record. Because you will see denials all the time that say, oh, you have some limitations, but we don't see significant weakness. And there are still things you can do. And I've seen this one. And you can move your limbs about. Yeah, I can. Does that mean I can do a job? I mean, that's not the reason why I can't do a job, because, there's other reasons, right? So, or why you can't sustain a certain activity that would be the job. So I agree with the CE examiner. Radicular problems, that extends into other limbs, often it is weakness. Let's say it's radicular into your legs. That often is weakness, numbness, tingling, pain. So, yeah. But if you get the denial on initial and recon, and MD, I don't know where you're at in the process. It has no bearing per se on your ultimate strength in your case. So I don't know what the ultimate strength of your case is. I don't know your vocational profile or your medical records, but you definitely want to stick to it and make sure you appeal. And while you're appealing or waiting for that 60 days, you don't have to file the appeal on the first day you get it. If you know, gee, I should have gone to that other doc, should have taken up on the PT, I should have started the PT, I should have done this, should have done that. Do that before you file the appeal. Just make sure you don't break your appeal deadline, of course. But you can start growing things and making it better, so when it bangs into their plate on recon, you've got more stuff to show them. I always think, the people that just blow through and sit around and wait and be like, I'm going to appeal, maybe they'll change their mind. They don't change their mind unless you give them a reason to. It's an excellent time to work on your own case. It's one of our busiest times on a case. Although I should say preparing for hearing is a very busy time too. And when we have our slew of hearings, which is basically this year, January, February, March, probably, I think I might have a month there. I'm just thinking about the timing. And then May, June, July will probably be heavy, which ticked me off. I sent in my availability for June. It's mandatory by the 1st of every month. The first of this month was January 1st. So I sent it in January 2nd. Now, granted, I could have, if I was doing that kind of administrative work on New Year's Day, and I did actually work on New Year's Day, but not on that kind of stuff. But I'm like, they're not even open. Whenever there's something due on a holiday or a weekend, it rolls to the next business day, regardless. And this time, so I said I sent it on the 2nd, my availability for June, because we had to do it that much in advance. Obviously, we don't have our schedules down pat, so we're just like, yeah, it's fairly open, right? And I got a letter back saying, sorry, it was due the 1st, so we won't change it. So then I sent a letter back today saying, okay, because, if you do have the right to, later on when your schedule got filled in for June, say, you can, as long as they have not given you a hearing for that time slot that you say you're now unavailable, you can amend your availability. For some reason, they don't want to do that for people who did not meet the deadline for the original one. But not meeting the deadline for the original one just means you have full availability. Like, people who have full availability, don't even send them in, because the default is you're fully available. Why would you send in something to reiterate what the default is? Anyway, that's my gripe with the SSA right now, and that would be with representative services, perhaps. I'm not sure. But I did ask them, I go, well, then can you please send me the link for how we go about changing future schedules as our schedule changes as the year goes on? We're 5 months ahead of June. And then I will just go in and make my changes. And again, if they already scheduled a hearing for me for June, I would be out of luck. But if they didn't, I should be able to change my schedule as I deem fit, my availability. I mean, what if my kid graduates? Now I know the date. Oh no, even though we don't have a hearing scheduled for you, you can't take that one off just in case we want to schedule it for you later. I mean, asinine, right? All right, welcome to my gripe. So the CE doctor for MD 77 said you win from other spinal disorders involving the spinal root. That's possible. He can't tell you whether you win or not, obviously, MD, because he doesn't make the decision. But if he was speaking about you personally, it sounds like he feels strongly in some way to be talking about it like that with you. And he does know, unless he's really, really not up to snuff on his job, he knows exactly what things he says support getting you pigeonholed into the spot you need to be to win versus any other statement about a certain matter that means you're not pigeonholed in. So if they were to believe him, if they were to rely on him, and they don't always, they would go with what he says, and it's either, you know, that piece of the puzzle makes you fit into the disabled slot, or he said something that actually puts you outside of the disabled slot. And again, they don't have to buy what he's selling, but they usually do on initial and recon. I mean, usually. Good or bad? No, I should say bad for sure. Good, not necessarily. Yeah, but that is something you can use at ALJ hearing, like even the CE says blah, blah, blah. Oh, he has a YouTube channel and does CE exams. That's cool. That's very cool. So is it fair to say he's no longer practicing regular medicine? Because he doesn't, I mean, I'm just wondering. He's doing the CE exams. And I think the YouTube channel is great if he's sharing information. That's awesome. I know most of us that do it from this end are still working, but, you know, it's just something that a lot of people that are experts in something can do to share it when they're no longer spending 70 hours a week doing it, right? I mean, eventually, if they don't keep up with it, they're going to not know their stuff, but, you know. MD says, Dr. Foster specifically mentioned 1.15 from the SSA. Okay, so we mentioned a listing. Just wanted to know your thoughts on this. New pain doctor did mention doing an EMG. I have an objective MRI and a lot of pain and sensory. Yeah, I'm so sorry. It sounds like the CE, the fact that he even discussed the listing with you, sounds good, right? Valerie McKenna in the house. Social Security has removed my payee, which is nice. Finally, didn't we just talk about it this week, Valerie? And you were frustrated because they hadn't? Yeah. Now my February payment will be a paper check. I thought they weren't doing that anymore. You have to give them the banking information. I wonder if the banking information was going to an account of your RP as custodian for you, and now you don't want to go into that account. So you need to, I would go online and change your banking information. So you get one check. So you're a little slow on the ball. It's not really your fault. I mean, that happens a lot where the first thing is a paper check. They have the ability to do a paper check. They just don't have a policy to do it. And when people don't have bank accounts, which is not uncommon, they will do a Social Security oriented debit card. I don't know if we usually call it Direct Express. I forget the bank that was doing it, but I know my mother has one. So all the money comes on the debit card, and then you go to your ATM or, you know, and you withdraw it, and usually there's a fee. Unless you have a bank account there. But if you have a bank account, why would you be using a debit card for your SSA monies to go onto? It would go right in your bank account. But I would set up your direct deposit right away, and you'll be good. And if you can do that online, that's the new way to do it, so that you don't have to make an in-person appointment. That's where you're going to do it. Because the new the newer administration doesn't let you make a phone call to do it because there were fraudulent phone calls coming in and changing people's direct deposit. So you don't want that. So it was kind of a no-brainer kind of move. I can't believe it took this long. I mean, phone scams are huge, right? And all it takes is a few pieces of information that anybody has, but they don't necessarily have your password to get into your SSA account, right? And then now with login.gov and ID.me, it was ID.me, I was told, which I don't go through ID.me, that it was a little bit of biometrics, face, da-da-da-da. I don't know. Login didn't do that, but I feel like I went in the other day, and I have to go in the same way I would go in to get my SS information. When I press the link for the monthly availability link to get into the linking for the hearing availability that I was talking about before when I was B&Ming, it said something, and that's login.gov I use. It said something about face or the fingerprint on your device, for the devices that you can use your fingerprint, which I do on my computer. I wasn't on my computer, though, I think. So I forget. I don't know. I forget what I did. But so I guess maybe they are getting into it with both of them. I'm not really surprised. Good morning, Valerie. I'm doing well, thank you. Diana had said hello. Earth One had said hello. Hello, Earth One. Valerie had confirmed that she can hear me. George Graham's in the house. Happy New Year, Stephanie. You too, George. Good to see you. Valerie says, do you think I may have triggered a CDR? No, I don't think that triggers a CDR. Okay, I do not. Now, if you find something to the contrary, and not just that you get a CDR, because you are going to get a CDR. Everybody has a CDR as a general rule. Sometimes we turn retirement age before it actually hits us. And sometimes they change the date depending on what's going on with technology and medicine and stuff like that. Cures. But I do not think going from representative payee to wanting to be your own payee, we've talked about this quite a bit, is by itself going to give you a CDR unless your doctor says you have improved in such a way that would indicate you can work. I would always present the position that, usually if you were a spendthrift, like a bipolar person who has manic spending at times, they might not change it just because you know how to write a check or do automatic banking. But for everybody else, now that there is automatic banking, all the bills can be set up. You never even have to think about it at all. And therefore, why should somebody be prevented from being their own rep payee if the only problem they had was their hands didn't work, they couldn't write checks, or they're not really good to sticking to, they do forget bills here and there? That's not necessarily, I don't think necessarily rises to the occasion of needing an RP, because we all forget to pay a bill sometimes. Look at every young person. And then us older people sometimes too get a little late on a bill. I do it once in a blue moon. I try to be on top of it, but I think I was late with something over Christmas, a regular bill. I just hadn't gotten to it. I've been taking a trip near Thanksgiving, busy with all that stuff. Then we had my father-in-law here for Christmas, and then it was the week before trying to get him here for Christmas. It was a whole kit and caboodle, and then a bunch of other things going on between work and family and everything else. So MD77 says, the DS examiner was assigned to my case in November of 2025, and soon after the requested, all right, you just got a DDS examiner, and you already had a CE exam, MD? That's pretty cool. Huh. And soon after the requested 3373, guys, that is the function report, and the 3369, that is the work history report. That is what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to really pump up that request as soon as they get on board. Valerie says, my payee didn't pay any of my bills. Yeah, you said. All they did was cut a check and took almost all my raise anyway. Shall I notify? I'm not going to tell you what to do. So what Valerie's saying, guys, is She had a representative payee. She wanted to not have one anymore, didn't think she needed it because of automatic pay and all that kind of stuff. And the representative payee thought she could do it herself too. That was fine. And I forget, Valerie, if you had a doctor do a note or your doctor say she could do it. But anyway, the SSA, when she, the field office said okay, and they thought it was okay. And they removed their payee, who was fine with it. The payee gets paid $57 a month out of Valerie and anybody else's benefit. And Valerie's saying she stopped paying my bills, but she took the 57 that last month. So I think what you have to figure out is, and I don't know the answer to this. First, was the 57 due her for the prior month's payment of bills? Is it a lag payment that she gets? I don't know. If not, yeah, then she's ripped you off for 57 bucks. Is it something that you want to go to the SSA about? That's entirely up to you. I can't really advise you on that. I cannot, because I don't really know, A, whether those payments jive. And, I don't always think we nail people when they do wrong. I mean, I do believe in accountability big time. If you guys hear me rant and rave about lack of accountability, right? But I also don't, and it's not, I'm not speaking about your case. If it was me, maybe I would, because I'd be like, that's a personal taking. But I'd make sure that it was first. Like I said, was her $57 due from the prior month when she already paid the bills, and then they're allowed to take it the following month? That's just not something I know the answer to. When I say about not trying to, like, for me, I don't spy on my neighbors. If they leave, like, we have strict rules in this community, like, you can't leave your garbage cans out past Monday at 11:59 p.m. or you get a citation. And I never, ever would call in. I'm just not that kind of person. You could park on the side of the road where we're not allowed to park either. I'm not going to be the one to call you out on that. I mean, we all are less than perfect. And we have, and I have neighbors who have their cars in the street full time. And I don't know if they have a special arrangement. It's not a disability reason, so I don't know what it would be, but I don't call them out. I don't care what you do with your cars near your house. It's not my business. Like, I know some, you always see the neighbor that they've got a little messy front yard. I don't know. I think that's a little violation. Let me call. Like, are you kidding? Good Lord. Let people live. Not to mention, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right? But if someone steals from you, whole different ballgame. Whole different ballgame. I will tell you guys at a later date a very big bad wrong that I think a short-term rental host did to my family member, and I was there, to make a false accusation that I know for 100% is false. Trying to get money after the rental is over. A 36-hour rental. That was part of our post-Thanksgiving, pre-Christmas surprise. Obviously, she's fighting it, and I'm trying to help her. But I don't know, you're kind of bound by certain rules when you use one of those big companies that do short-term rentals. Are they going to always try to side with their host? Are they going to split it down the middle, which is what they seem to have done so far? We got the facts on our side. And, if they don't look at them with an astute eye, I will be smacking this all over the internet. I will be yelping to death this particular host and say, do not rent from this person. I have a feeling the person might be selling their property maybe, so they don't really care. I say this because it's in an area where you wouldn't vacation. In fact, you have to park in a strip mall next to the welfare office. Apartment's really cute inside. There was a couple broken things, but no big deal. The short-term rentals are usually pretty nice, and it was in a kind of ugly area, but we did it solely to have a place to stay when we visited my nephew in Maryland. So this was in the wonderful state of Maryland, and because I know 100% that she's lying, I feel very free to go out on a limb, you know. Or I should say her claim is false, would be more accurate. And so, I mean, she's either lying or she is really not really kept in the dark about her property. But I have a feeling it's not the latter. In fact, she might live very close to it. All right. I digress. Sorry, guys. It's all about me. Just kidding. Oh, MD said it wasn't his personal CE. He haven't. Okay, I was going to say that was fast. Usually they get your medical records, which they wouldn't really have time to get, and your function report usually. So was it the CE that's on the YouTube? Is that the CE doctor that also has a YouTube channel? That's pretty cool. But he didn't examine you, so I guess it doesn't necessarily. But you know it's in your medical records, so maybe you told him about it. Valerie says, will my paper check come on the 3rd, or will it be delayed to the 4th or 5th? I'm going to my favorite bank to see if I can get an account with them again. I have no idea. So you're saying the 3rd. So I think yours is SSI, right, Valerie? So, I mean, mail is slow. This is why direct deposit is so much better. And mind you, if you can't get a bank account, we never had a problem with my mom's direct in 14 years with her direct express card. You know, every 5 years you get a new one. You know, you have an account, you can go in and check withdrawals or whatever. So it's not a bad gig to have the card. It's nice to have a bank account, I suppose, but you know. Just remember, if you have a bank account, you do not want to go over the resource limit for SSI. Just throwing that in there, Valerie. Half Pint, good to see you. Happy New Year to you too. Limitless says, hi, everyone. Hi, everyone is CDR. Everyone is every case is lined up for a CDR generally. And here you get into the crux of it there, Limitless. What if one is 62 and their SSA report says CDR 7 years and it says a date that puts recipient as exactly. So that would be where you would never have your medical diary date be the cause of your CDR. Because, you know, with the exception, again, let's say they suddenly have this cure for whatever ails you. This isn't going to happen, but, you know, unicorn land. And, you know, progress does get made. Just don't expect it. That would be potentially a reason why it might change. We don't see that, though, generally speaking, because medicine doesn't change that fast. Now, remember, there are other reasons for CDRs. You could start to work. That could trigger a CDR, right? So, just if you're not doing any of the above, or if you're working and they know it and you don't change your duties, your hours, anything like that, then you should be good to go. But that's exactly the reason. So you did have a diary date. It's almost like that. I think they set the diary date because, again, what if they change the rules on diary dates? You know, let's say suddenly the SSA gets wealthy and can do that. I'm not seeing it happening, but you know, they could change the diary dates. Certain kind of impairment now has a 4-year diary date instead of if there is such a thing, instead of a 7, because they have this all the therapies have been going so well. Now people are recovered from that, whatever it is, dying much better. I mean, think of it along these lines. People used to be really, really disabled when they lost a leg or 2 legs. I think now you're still disabled with 2 legs, but 1 leg. And a lot of people didn't have prosthetics. They'd be like in a wheelchair. And then prosthetics became really good. And now losing a leg is not necessarily going to disable you from all jobs. I have seen, however, in my experience, every time I've taken one of these cases, which is not a lot, obviously, not for the leg anyway, prosthetics with some people, I mean, most people would be thrilled to have a great prosthetic and be able to get back to work. That's the nature of humans, right? Except those that have been taught to the contrary. But sometimes those prosthetics cause some people have trouble, their limbs have trouble adjusting to the prosthetic. It gets really sore. It's really troublesome. They don't walk on it well. It hurts. Some people have that phantom pain after the loss of a limb. It's unrelenting. I've also seen people get chronic regional pain syndrome in an area subsequent to an amputation or a limb loss. That's such a weird, complicated disorder, but it's really horrible. So, it could definitely be one way or the other, but the point being prosthetics have come a long way. And so what was disabling forever is no longer necessarily disabling forever. Jennifer, hi, Stephanie. My hearing went really well. Awesome. According to Jonathan. All right. Awesome, Jonathan. Congratulations, I hope. VE only asked, the VE only asked, you mean the judge asked the VE only 2 questions and both were no jobs? That sounds exactly like we were hoping and planning, right? It does. It does, Jen. So hopefully, I feel very positive. I felt kind of positive about your case from what you shared before that, but this kind of is extra fodder for that hopeful feeling, right? And Jonathan knows. I mean, 99% of the time, right? MD says, what is my general time frame with examiner getting requests and sending those 2 forms out in November and December? That doesn't affect your time frame at all. Why would that be, you ask? Sometimes the adjudicator is no longer your adjudicator, and then a new one comes on, they're waiting for a new one, and then you gotta wait. So the fact that you got one is very good. Most likely he's going to be on the case until he makes a determination. Much of it, there's no general time frame anymore, in my opinion, because, well, maybe there's starting to become one. I mean, it's definitely getting shorter once you get a DDS compared to an adjudicator. I feel like I'm seeing results in like 4 months, 5 months. So that's like assuming you timely get your function report out, work history report. Sorry, I got a twitchy eye. Can you see it? I didn't eat enough banana. Oh, I could see it. It's so annoying. It's that one. Yeah, so look at all your medical records. If your doctors are fast about it, everything's getting faster also because they are now implementing, when you've sent your 827 authorization in, they have arrangements with so many major health providers across the country, and they're working really hard to bring on more so that when they have your valid authorization, they can get them auto right from the company without having to send a letter, print it, stick it in an envelope, hope it gets there through U.S. mail, etc., and then, expect the same way back. So now they can do it's called a HITMER. That's what I call it anyway. If it's HITMER, wouldn't you? They can do a HITMER for so many records, and they get it same day. So that really speeds up the process. I don't know why they weren't doing that before as much. There's so many things that are going on that are really getting utilized a lot more. When they did exist before, they just weren't really seeking to push them. I don't know why. Hey, Freddie Mejia, can I get approved without seeing the judge? Waiting for hearing. There's something called an OTR, on the record review, where the judge, in theory, they like to have a quick review when they first get your case, have an attorney advisor look at it and see if you could win based on what was at some point before hearing anyway. And yeah, sometimes we get those, which is really nice. Some people aren't aware of this. You can actually, I don't recommend it. I totally don't recommend it. But you can, when you fill out your appeal for hearing form, it says, do you want to appear for the hearing or just have it go on the record? And you could, so someone who doesn't even want the hearing can say, I don't want to be heard. Just look at the paperwork. I'll get you more paperwork and more medical records as time goes on and just do it on that. You can do that. I would never do that with my clients, but it's possible. I mean, if they insisted, I guess I would, but It wouldn't be my advice. I mean, the fact that you're going to a hearing, if the judge doesn't make an OTR beforehand, sua sponte on their own, they're saying your case is not a slam dunk. At least not with the extra thing of him getting to eyeball you, talk to you, ask you a couple questions that are not clear, and maybe get a sense of your credibility. Valerie says no, because she took December's payment and she did pay one of my bills in December, so I didn't make a huge deal about it. So are you saying, all right, so she took December's payment, which, what, again, by law, is that a payment for what she did in November? I don't know how that works. Or is that a payment for what she was going to do in December and then didn't do? And she didn't take it for January, right, Valerie? Or did she? We know. And you already know that she paid only one bill in December and not the rest of them. Yeah, I hear you. So you didn't make a big deal about it, but it probably didn't sit right. For sure. A ripoff, even small, is very, that is rightfully offensive when it's on purpose. When it's an accident, I mean, everybody has mistakes, but. Kevin's in the house. Kevin Johnson. Hearing is this Friday. Is that Kevin from Tennessee? 10 a.m. ALJ is 58% approval rate. I'm so nervous. 58 is not bad. Remember, you worked up your case and did a lot of medical treatment, right? If not treatment, I know people get all worried, like, there's nothing they can do. I can't treat for it. I'm like, you follow up and you follow up and you follow up and you report your symptoms and you get followed up and get exams as much as you can. It might not be treatment, but it's follow up that shows the conditions the same or worse. If you don't go, then there's no indication of that. And so then why would anything change from the previous decision? If you're just saying it's all the same. You denied me on this before, so I don't know why you would expect a different result second time around. What do they call that? When you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result? Wasn't that the definition of insanity or something like that? Anyway, I think 58% approval is decent. I've seen a lot worse. But again, the point is you work your case enough so you're in that 58%. You're not in that 42%. Carrie's in the house. Clarification, and if you make a listing, is that it? If you make a listing, is that it? Yes. And then she says, then do you get an RFC? No. I have, because the question of a listing comes before, it becomes at the beginning of like step 3. And it's only after you don't, in their mind, meet a listing that they spend the time developing an RFC for you. Right? So, yeah, no RFC. Didn't have to do it because, as they say, if you meet a listing, you could do back handsprings, but you met a listing. The listing is a stronger indicator. I have mental and physical issues. I'm soon to be 56, working on denial with 2 mental listings I left off. Okay, so you got denied. So you're in recon now, Carrie? What does your lawyer say about it? And why were 2 mental listings left off? I will say, even if they were left off of your application in the beginning, you gave them all your doctor information, the same mental health providers treating you for those 2 additional mental listings, right? Then they should have that evidence anyway. So even if you leave off a diagnosis because you might not have remembered it was a diagnosis, because they all kind of sound the same, right? They kind of have a duty to, they can't ignore it just because you didn't mention it when they see your doctor saying it, or your provider. So there is that. But in the future, definitely put it in, because you don't want to minimize it either. Like, she doesn't even talk about it. So even though she's got it, it doesn't apparently bother her. And a lot of these mental health diagnoses, you might have 2, but some of the symptoms are the same in both, right? So there's almost like a little overlapping. MD77 says, new pain doctor is doing an ESI. ESI, I think he's talking about an epidural steroid injection. What did I say, steroid injection. I was concerned the muscle weakness wouldn't show up on EMG because of my symptoms being so sensory. You know, yeah, I mean, I get your concerns because tingling, but those other problems of tingling and numbness in foot are also very troublesome. So I would give some thought to your day to day. Do your muscles get weak? Are you less strong with your legs than you used to be? And maybe your hand grip and stuff like that. And can you do it for as long? Can you grip as long as you could, or does weakness come in? And then you can complain about weakness. You know, I know you want to say, well, I feel like it's heaviness. Well, I don't know, maybe go to a rowing machine where you're sitting down and they're not like on your feet, but you're using your legs. Is there weakness? I don't really know. You'd almost have to ask like a physical therapist. How would I determine? Why don't you chat GPT? Why don't you see what others are saying about how to determine weakness from a home layperson point of view, which is not so bad, actually. Not for starters, anyway. Valerie says, Stephanie, I agree with you about not calling out on every little thing, but I don't. They should have taken my absolutely. And like I said, I think if it was because it's not an accident. If it's not an accident, I mean, did you ask her about it to say, hey, I think you accidentally took out December's pay when you weren't paying my bills in December? And she might say, oh, did I? Oh, it could be a brain fart. Ask her. If she says, well, I paid one, and if she's going to be like that, I mean, if I were her, I'd err on the side of caution, even if she thinks that she paid all the bills, and be like, no, I did see this, like maybe explain it to you, and if you say, I don't see it, I'm the one I'd rather give up what I've earned, at least a little bit, to make sure I'm not erring on the side of being wrong and taking from somebody else. I'd rather, and I kind of live that as a way of life, believe it or not, out and about in my community. If there's a question, I always err on the pay it again thing or whatever. I just do. It's just something in my, I don't know, the way I just think it, just the way I don't want to be on the wrong side of income or gain when I was wrong. That just does not sit well with me. So it's probably not something that I felt so much when I was younger. We all maybe grow our ethics as we get older and more experienced, and we learn more that no, life is not your free platter, But yeah, because I probably did some things that I would question now, when I was a very young adult, say, or a teenager. Minor things, but nonetheless. And sometimes people just walk away from it going, it was minor, it's nothing. And I'm like, I mean, I'm so bad that if we're, I remember berating my sister once because she took a grape. I think it was my sister. She took a grape. This is when we were young, so I guess I was a little more stickler than I thought. Grape out of the grape bin at a grocery store to taste it. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. You're stealing that grape. Yeah, that's me. But I have done some less than ideal things that I can recall. Not on purpose. It wasn't even necessarily caused by me, but letting it slide when it was caused by somebody else because, and I don't do that anymore. If someone else makes a mistake, I actually call it out, even if it benefits me, because yeah, I just can't do it. MD says, I've read EMG doesn't pick up sensory too. Well, I'm not an EMG specialist, so I don't know. If you're reading from, authoritative medical sources, I think that's good. Obviously, it picks up nerve activity, and nerve activity is related to all of that. And when nerves are active in a way that's not normal, that's an abnormal EMG. And that's what we're looking for. And by the way, MD, a lot of times the sensories, they do that with that touch, with their hands. So your doctor, talk to your doctor and be like, can you do a sensory exam? Look it up. But you see it in records all the time. It's like sometimes I'll do pinprick touching, to see where you feel, and they get some certain zones where you have less feeling. Something to think about. La Lulu's in the house. Hi there, lady. I heard a cautionary reminder yesterday not to click on links directly from within texts or emails for my SSA or ID.me. I agree. Or login.gov, especially if you get notifications when you have a new message. I would I don't want to be ultra paranoid here, but I agree. If you get an email, because there is spoofing and phishing and spoofing of where the email came from. So another reason why we don't, people I know that I represent know, when they email me through the firm email, I'm like, don't, please go through the portal that we paid for so you have encrypted, secure access. I don't know what you're getting in we don't send things to people's email. Not once they're our client, because, what if they get something? I don't want them ever to be confused whether it's me or not. Or some, who knows when they're going to start spoofing law firms, it wouldn't be surprising. So I kind of agree. You can always, if you think it's from SSA, just go right to the source and get in through your encrypted, passworded way. That's a great thing to bring up, Laura, La Lulu. I appreciate. The continuation says, if you get notifications when you have a new message, it's okay to open and read the notification. Then open your browser and yourself to log in normally and read message. Just don't open. I agree. Don't click on links in your emails. I would say that's true of everything. Everything. And ironically, we do send to people that we don't represent. Like I'll send a link to our free evaluation form, or the page on the website that's for the prepaid consultations, when someone's asking. We send those links, but that's a little different because they're not putting in their private information. Do you know what I mean? The evaluation's there, but it doesn't take any personal information. No social security, no date of birth, takes their name. And that's not really going to get them anywhere because everyone's got 100 other people with the same name, And it doesn't even ask for their address. I think we ask for their state. And that's largely for calling them and knowing what time zone they're in, because if I have a lot of California people, and I do not want to be calling them I don't really want to call anyone unless it was urgent. Definitely not before 9, and usually before 10. I aim for even after that, but if my schedule's crazy and they're just waiting for a call from me, I'll do it, because a lot of people that I have that are disabled, sleep is an issue and it's a problem, and they don't get up at the crack of dawn. I have some people that always get up at the crack of dawn because their biological clock does it, whether or not they had bad sleep or not. But a lot of people don't sleep well, and their clock is a little different, and they may be falling asleep by 2, and they, maybe they have sleep meds and they're not getting up till 10. So I try to gauge when I'm going to try to put them in the list to call. What time should they, Carrie says, haven't got denial yet, figure I will. Oh, I'm learning as I go. It's like writing a paper, must back up statement with facts, making sure it's in the records. Doctors have been helpful. Are you self-representing, Carrie? It sounds like you're self-representing. If you are, I strongly suggest, and by the way, no, your facts that you state that happened to you are not necessarily going to be in your records. That's why the function report is not like a regurgitation of your medical records quotations at all. It's because your doctor's not going to have that in there. So don't think that your statements for function report and things like that are what's going to be found in the record. Otherwise, your function report is probably going to be within normal limits. I'm pretty darn good. So I'm not sure what you meant by that. But if you don't have representation, you really should reach out if you get that denial. If you're close to getting a decision, we said this before, like maybe wait, because getting someone on board now, they can be connected to you and you're appointed a representative, but they can't really do too much for you. They can't give you a lot of legal advice and say, oh, you need to press on this at this point because you're about to get a decision. And if the decision goes your way, they're going to get paid. And that's the way contingent fee agreements work. I mean, they interviewed you and they did initial paperwork and they reviewed your case and they did spend several hours, but, you know, it's not the same as if they, you know, full on did. So, you know, if there's nothing they can do for you right now, but the second after, if you get denied, my fingers are crossed for you, Carrie, that you don't hop on it. Do not wait. Do not wait 2 weeks. That recon time is really, really important. Okay. And, yeah. Oh, Valerie said it's SSDI. Oh, okay, Valerie. SSDI, not supplemental security income. If it's Social Security disability insurance benefits, then the part about having a bank account and saving money and investing and putting a little, even $10 a month away and let it grow. And yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Valerie says, it continues to say, oops, come on. I'm SSDI. My attorney told me in the past that I could win the lottery and the SSA would still have to pay my benefits. Oh, yeah, you can be rich. You can, yeah. It's insurance. It's like you can make a car claim if you have a car accident, even if you're wealthy. It's insurance. You can make, you know, if you're a wealthy person, you have health insurance. You don't have to go pay your own health bills to the extent that your insurance policy is supposed to because you bought it. That's the beauty of the insurance versus the welfare. So I try to get everybody, if they can, to be able to convert to the SSD, if they can gain the work credits while they're disabled and collecting the SSI. You know, some people don't have the ability to do that or the will, but that's the beauty of that. People can gift you. You can inherit. You win the lottery. Not that I suggest you spend all your money on lottery tickets, but yeah, here and there is okay. Gambling wins. If you ever go to a casino and have a good time and come out ahead, all that good stuff. Being gifted a lot. You can earn from a part-time job that's within your disability parameters and keep all of it and keep all of your SSD payments too. There is no dollar offset for every $2 earned like there is for the welfare, the SSI. So another thing to think about. That's if you want to get out there and, you know, work 5-10 hours a week. It's something very genteel and non-stressful, or even solo. Like if you have mental health issues that are anxiety and with other people, you know, working from home and earning a few bucks, house sitting, you know, making some bucks. You don't have to do it in the shadows. Boldly dream. When I was approved, the judge said I'd have a review in 2 years. When I was approved, the judge said I'd have a review in 2 years. Yeah, they expect you to get better. Can a person get permanent disability after the first review? No. Technically, it's never considered permanent. That would be a pretty horrible thing to say to somebody, like, you're never going to recover no matter what medical technology comes about. So I would say no. I would never consider it permanent. I don't care what anybody says. It could be that you have MINE, M-I-N-E, medical improvement not expected. It's not exactly the same thing as permanent. Permanent means you're done. You can do whatever. You can do backhand flips down the street and people can see you, even though you have a bad back and you're never going to get, even if they report you, they can never take your benefits. No. No. Thanks for being here, Boldly. I don't know if did we meet, but I like that bird. You know, I'm a bird person. Yeah, I didn't bring Tasha in today. I should have, but I have my favorite veterinarian in the world, who is a mobile vet up in the Northeast PA area, Dr. Weiss. Ding ding, if anyone needs a mobile vet. it's great for the regular maintenance of the animals and all that kind of stuff. I think I'm a little late with the animals. We had a really difficult year of 2024, as some of you know. So we had it in 2024, but then the whole year and into 2025, it continued. And I think they're on the 3-year rabies, so that's not a big deal, but I have them coming today for my Bernese. She has such major itchies always, and we've tried everything. We even tried originally prescription from the vet, but I was told it could be vapid yeast overgrowth. I mean, her ears itch, her body itches, although she doesn't scratch as much her butt like she was. Licking her paws all the time. She stinks. I'm going off on a tangent here, guys. We spent several months in a row having her groomed, and it's really expensive at PetSmart. I mean, expensive because I'm cheap, but once a month, and you'd think it would last a month. I mean, it's decoded, it's like it's the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's like $150, and it was just to see if we could get something resolved here, because if we did, my daughter knows how to do that stuff, and then she's learning actually. And within days, she stinks again. And yes, she has bad farts, I will say. However, they all do. All the dogs do. Hers are particularly bad. However, it's not that. It's her skin. And she's such a sweet girl. So I asked for an appointment so I could talk to him about, he may as well throw her the rabies shot too. Normally I combine all like 6, 7 animals, because you get charged for the visit and then the drive up. It's a pain in the butt. I live in a community. He probably hates coming in here. I don't blame him, because it's a pain to get to the gate. Yeah, that reminds me. I hope he doesn't come to the back gate. They make everybody come to the front. That's a newer rule. So anyway, he's coming to check her out and see, and I want a really strong anti-yeast whatever. And I want to kill this thing and see if we can get her some sort of relief, because I think it causes her a lot of anxiety. Anyway, I digress. Let's go on. Jennifer says, fingers crossed. Thank you so much. We'll keep you posted. Yes. I'm sure everyone has got their fingers crossed for you. This is Limitless. I and all my veteran friends wish all attorneys were as knowledgeable, engaging, and as positive as you. That is the sweetest thing. Thank you. That is really nice, Limitless. And I thank you and all your veteran friends for your service. Immensely so. Immensely so. Oops. Yep. Okay. 503. Hi, my 57-year-old dad has schizophrenia for about 10 years, has not been treated for last 9 years, has only worked on and off, but was fully employed before. Okay, so, oh, that's okay. She says, disregard, please accidentally hit send. Sorry. Okay. Do you want me to delete that? I'm going to delete it. If you want to ask about it, you can. I just didn't know if maybe you decided you didn't want to post it. All right, 503. Just in case that was what you wanted. Sunflower's in the house. Hi, Sunflower. In Recon Now had a THR. Do you mean a CDR? And as I said, hip issue. Hip wasn't an issue due to THR. Oh, you had total hip replacement. Gotcha. Due to the THR, but the implant is loose. PT never sent my records for the leg pain therapy, but I have them now. Are old records considered in recon? Absolutely. Absolutely. And how old are they? They're not very old. If they were still a part of, they would have been in your part of your case. For sure, Sunflower. You're in recon now. Yeah, that's some lower level said, oh, she's probably good now because she had the hip replacement. Yeah, not always. When we're lucky, yeah, a lot of people, hip replacement gets them back on their feet and they can do light work. Maybe more, but I doubt more. Probably light at best. And of course, that will depend on your vocational profile, right? Whether light will still allow you to win the day. Meow says, my hearing is next week. My case is primarily for mental illnesses. What should I expect to be asked? Also, what should I do if I have a panic attack during the hearing? Well, if you have a panic attack during the hearing, doesn't that mean you can't really control it? I mean, you're saying, what can I do? If there was something you could do about panic attacks at any given time, then it wouldn't be a problem, would it? Right? So if you have one, you have one. You know, I feel like judges go very, very gentle and don't ask a lot of questions about mental illness because you have mental illness and the answer may not be reliable, perhaps, or might, and they don't have a duty to ask you questions, per se. You need to take notes on what you need to tell him. Maybe ponder that a little bit. Make your list of things he needs to know about what your mental illness causes and symptoms. If there's examples that you have over time, if you had hospitalizations, he's going to know that it's going to be in your record unless you didn't get it to him. If you never got your stuff to the SSA and the SSA couldn't get it themselves, So I think you need to be prepared to describe to him what happens and why. You need to describe why your mental health symptoms prevent you from doing simple, unskilled work. I mean, I'm just going to give an example here. If someone is so emotionally dysfunctional that and maybe a little paranoid, and they always think people are looking at them, and they're so over concerned about the quality of their unskilled work. I mean, it could be unskilled, but you still can produce quality. And they're always worried about it, and they get very tearful on a dime at work, and they have to run to the bathroom, and they're crying, and they're constantly a distraction to other work. If something like that, I'm just giving you like a real easy to understand example. It would be like, I can't control my tearfulness. I cry. Of course, you'd probably cry in the hearing if this is true. I get so nervous, and and I'm constantly, my mind is constantly racing about how I might be screwing up what I'm doing right now, and I don't know, and I'm too afraid to ask, whatever it is. Sometimes people have OCD, and getting out of the house is really hard because they keep having to wash their hands out one more time, or keep having to go back and check. They go down the block and they got to come back and check they lock the door 5 times. That would probably interfere with things at work. Every case is different. That's what I'm saying. And all that stuff, of course, would be something that your therapist has already enunciated in your records, but that's what you would be talking about. Your specific, not your diagnoses and, which medical expert facility set. It's what you experience that makes you fail at staying at even a simple, unskilled job. Even if you could try it and you start it, and maybe you have, and you keep losing your job. You either panic and leave in the middle of a day because you have a total panic attack, gotta go home, or you get let go. But those are the kind of things that I would be focusing on. It's going to be hard if you just say, I'm depressed and I don't have the motivation to go. That is a really hard thing, because I'd say 50% of the population does not want to go to work because it's boring. It's not fun. We're so, I don't know, mindseted these days that life should always be fun. That it's almost created its own mental illness. We think that if we're not having a ball, we're in the wrong job, and we should be following our dream where we're always smiling and having fun at work. And don't work unless you do, and you shouldn't have to, and you should be very depressed. So you gotta pick and choose and figure out what is the basis of why you can't work full-time at a job. And a sustained basis, by the way, is 6 months. So if you say, well, I only last like 8 months, well, that's a sustained basis. So that's not job failure. It might be to you, but not under the eyes of the law. All right. Half Pint says, does pretty much every case go to a hearing with my anxiety? I'm so nervous about that. No. Probably half of them don't. Maybe more. But it really does depend on the kind of impairments. I would say the subjective ones, where the symptomology cannot be objectively determined very well, and or the diagnosis is not objectively diagnostically determined, but is more of a ruling out everything else, and this is the cause of your pain, some syndrome. Those are harder. And they almost invariably go to hearing. Ah, Limitless is a new member. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Valerie says, no, it's monthly, so December would be December. I know it's monthly, but you know how, okay, hear me. Your payment for December was actually for November. Did you know that? So I'm just saying it is possible that her taking out for December would have been for the work done for November, because that you weren't even paid for November until December. Because we have to survive the month and jump into December, breathe until December to be due, to be even have November payable. So that, and then they pay it in December for November. So that's why I say that. She's talking, guys, about the representative payee who took a payment, her fee, for handling Valerie's bills, which now she no longer needs a representative payee. And she didn't pay the bills for December by and large, but she took her fee out in December. And again, that might be, just saying, just find out. I mean, because you don't really want to make a fool out of yourself if it's so. And if she's saying, no, that was for my work of paying your bills in November is what the December payment is for, because your December payment is what's due you from November. Just saying. Terry says, oh, by the way, guys, I am not going overboard today past 3. In fact, if it wraps up earlier, I will get out earlier because the vet he's coming between 3 and 4. It's that whole window, you know, when you have a home visit. But I've really got to pick up out there a little bit. Because you know, it is kind of warm. Maybe he'd rather be on the deck, but I don't know. Just kind of want to. It's so like mud tracked in and stuff. I got to mop. Yeah. I don't have a maid. Am I the only lawyer that doesn't have a maid? I don't know. I have kids and they're not maids. Carrie says, thanks. Very helpful. You were spot on. I'm representing myself. I'm being proactive since I'm doing it myself and learning as I go. You are the best. Thank you, Carrie. I hope it helps you. And fingers crossed that you prevail. I think you said you were 56. So you're in a good age bracket. So if you do the right stuff, and obviously have the right impairments, and depending on that past work, I hope you did your work history report fully and properly. You're in the best age group anyway, if you're 56. Valerie says, no, she said, I'm getting my whole Social Security payment, the payee fee. I don't really know what that means. That's not. That doesn't really answer my question. But maybe you asked that before I said what I said about how the months are staggered. Like you get it. There's a month lag. Hey, Dimple's in the house from Ohio. Yo, Dimple. How are you? Look at your smiling face. So nice to see. Harry says, going for a heart test later today. Had pre-op appointment for my knee surgery. And they found something abnormal. Sorry about that. Gosh. I tell my care providers that I'm not attention seeking. Yeah, I hear you. Knees, always good for 56-year-olds. Cincy JMac? Oh, Ohio too. So if I'm saying this wrong, I'm butchering it. I'm sorry, Cincy. Cincy JMac. Is that right? Says, just found your channel. Hi from Ohio. Hi. You know, Dimple's from Ohio too. She's a regular in this group. Anyway, nice to see you, Cincy. Thank you for popping in. We appreciate. MD says, met with orthopedist to discuss back surgery. Discussed all probabilities. Met with orthopedist to discuss back surgery. Declined due to possible bad outcomes. New pain clinic wants to send me to neurosurgeon to discuss surgery. I would go and get a second opinion. That's not going to force a surgery on you. And when you say possible bad outcomes, possible bad outcomes, everything has a possible bad outcome, right? So try to focus if your condition itself lends itself to being less ideal than others, even if not like, no, you cannot have the surgery, you're not a candidate. It doesn't have to be that strong of a contraindication for you. But for instance, you had a similar surgery and you did not heal well. That could be kind of a added crumb. I mean, because think about it. Every single medical thing we do could have a possible bad outcome. Everything. Every single thing. And imagine if someone says, I don't have medical treatment, but I do have XYZ, but I can't prove it because I don't do any medical follow-up because I don't want a bad outcome. You know, it could be a bad outcome. I'm being extreme there, but if you can point to the specifics, like even if you say, like get a percent, like is there stats that you can discuss with your doctor? Like let's say they say, well, 62% of people have a better outcome, 10% are the same. So we're down to 70, and 28% do worse. 28%. I mean, I'm making up numbers here, but if let's say it's 20%, that's a high percentage of, that's a big chance of pulling the straw. You know, it's almost 30%. So if it was something like, so what are the stats? Get some details, and then you can like put it in a letter and say, these are the things I'm worried about. You know, when we discuss the surgery, this is my understanding, or, and better yet, if your doctor says, like if he discusses you the stats, take your notes and say that's a really unreasonably high risk that I just don't feel safe taking. And then say and if you use credible medical source literature, you know, not Facebook, that talks about maybe the incidence of bad outcomes, some of the side effects that may occur for nearly everybody despite a positive outcome. I don't know, just all sorts of things to dig into. You have to really, I'd say, get into the weeds. I really feel like one of the strongest reasons, and this might be me, other lawyers might feel differently. I think one of the strongest bases for refusing or choosing not to have a surgery despite significant pain is that one had it before and it was a failed surgery. We see this a lot in back surgeries. If it didn't help before, let's say it didn't even make you worse, but it didn't help, and you go through all those, I mean, it's a lot of recovery, and there's the risk of the surgery itself. So if you think, if you had prior and you didn't heal well from it, that I think that would lend itself more to, yeah, why would you do the same kind of thing in your back when your back has already kind of showed you that it's not conducive to healing right, or taken to it, or whatever. Or if you had a really bad anesthesia, but then they might say, oh, we have new anesthesias now. So you have to really go case by case and look at your own situation, MD. But those are just some ideas to help support that it's not medical non-compliance. And surgeries never are. It's just that when you look at the SSA narratives on it, they're not just going to take blanket, I'm afraid. It's just not going to be a good enough reason. So you have to maybe get specific. And we discussed this, and then follow up with letters like, we discussed this, we discussed the high rate of failure, you know, and yeah, I've discussed it with my spouse, and I'm going to put this off for now and look for other better conservative therapies to give me some sufficient relief to have some better quality of life or whatever. Valerie says, I work 2 to 3 jobs at sometimes at once. I had some good paying jobs. Yeah, we all worked multiple jobs, didn't we? So my SSDI is a good payment, good. However, because of my disability, I do have state help, so I still have to be careful on saving. That's a shame. I mean, is the state help more than enough to outweigh the benefits of savings? And is there a way you can save that does not implicate the state help? You know, whether it's putting it into a trust, some of it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't do state stuff. But that would be nice. MD says, I already told my orthopedist no to the surgery, and I don't want a second appointment with new surgeon. Can I say no? You can say whatever you want. It's a free country. The question is, does this saying no and not giving any kind of indication that you've been studying up on it and you have good reasons and all that? Because when we don't choose a medical recommendation, it suggests that our pain is not bad enough that would make us want to do it. Whereas 50 other people are like, oh, yeah, no, when your pain's bad, you get the surgery. So you need to feel that out. You can always change your mind on getting a second opinion. That's just a second opinion. You know, they can't force you to get the surgery, but at least it shows that you're open to the idea and you're learning more. And what you've learned is telling you it's too much risk for you or too much suffering after. And the chances of maybe not a high risk of a bad outcome, but a low risk of improvement. Play around with those numbers and how you would explain that. That's what I'd be doing. Anytime we don't do medical advice, we have a risk of jeopardizing our claim. Yes, this is why you have to do it in the right way and for the right reasons. And you need those reasons to be in the evidence, not just you speaking it to me or it coming up finally at a hearing and it was never even in front of your doctor and out of the records. That's why I say put it in writing, ask the questions in person, follow up with it in writing, like we discussed this, doctor. And you told me that there's a pretty significant amount of post-surgical patients that have problems with this after and that don't get any relief. So it's, you know, while some people get help, there's quite a bit that don't. And we discussed the risk of the surgery itself and that I need to weigh the risk with the, you know, the kind of like the not sure rewards. You follow what I'm saying, MD? GT Dude. Hey, I missed the last couple of live streams. Well, we missed you too. Thanks for showing up. It was holidays. They were kind of short last couple weeks. GT says, I'm still waiting on a letter from my local office. I forget where you left off. You'd have to refresh me. Sherry Valerie says, how can you tell what judge has been assigned to your ALJ hearing? It will ultimately be in one of your ALJ OHO, but I think they just changed the name of that. But they changed it all the time. 2 years ago, it was ODAR. Then it became OHO. I forget what it is now. I just still say OHO. It took me a while to get there. In fact, I still have some of my file things that still say letters to ODAR. And this has been OHO for like a few years. It'll be in one of the letters eventually. I think the initial letter is from the hearing officer, and it's kind of, you know, just a general letter. But then later on, I think when they schedule it and give you do you have your date yet? If you have a date, that should be the ALJ, the judge's name is in there. He's the one that ostensibly sent the letter. Oh, GT, my day's going just swell. I'll be much happier when the vet, who I adore, has come and gone. And I know, I just, you know, I want that done. Then I'm going to go back to work. So hopefully I'll be back in the office by 5. I'm sure it'll be far less than that. Probably by 4. And I want to know if there's a plan for the dog. Like, Or do we just have to, and she suffer this for the rest of her life? That's my hope. Fan Cave Collectibles. Hello, Stephanie and all. I am an active viewer, but changed my screen name. Okay. I mentioned last video about my recent hearing. My rep asked me specific questions about my conditions, and the judge asked me a few questions regarding things in the record. She didn't ask the VE anything and challenged the ME. I too had a panic attack during my hearing. Was it evidence? Was it one that was just inside your head and nobody knew, and you're sweating bullets but nobody knew? Or was it, trying clawing to get out? I would say it needs to be on the record with details. What needs to be on the record with details? The panic attack during the hearing? I'm not sure what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to, but yes, usually the more the better, in my opinion. Big Dad John Pesek? Pesek? You're not related to Peish? Here's another viewer. Big Bad says, I got mine because I have seizures. Can't drive. Since then, I became blind in my right eye. I'm sorry, Big Dad, and have had 5 failed back surgeries. See? Those failed back surgeries, that's what we were just talking about. You were a brave soul, Big Bad, because you went on to have 4 more. I'm a prisoner in my own body. I am so sorry. I don't want to be here anymore. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You could find joy. I think you can. Hang out with us. If nothing else, we'll just annoy you. Hang in there, Big Bad. Now you're making me worried about you. Sherry. 6666. Thanks for helping us understand the wonderful world of SS. Yeah, I always say it's the swimming pool we are all swimming in. Sometimes it's murkier than other times. Oh, Tally's Whacker says, oh my gosh, you stop. How did I click on that? I didn't read it first. You're crazy. Valerie says that was a minus sign. All right, I'm not sure what that was about. All right, Sunflower says, have a therapist who never sent records on initial may change to psychiatrist. Oh, you mean a mental health therapist. Do they hold more? Okay, we talked about this last week, I think. They serve 2 different purposes, in my opinion. The psychiatrist is higher credentialed, but they tend to only give you medication management. You see them every 3 months. If you were to see your psychiatrist as to give you the therapy, plus any medications that you may or may not need, then that covers the therapy and the frequency. You got a lot more records in there, and the fact that he knows you better than the guy that just sees you every 3 months and writes a script. So that kind of depends. You have to get on those therapists. Most of them, I'm saying blanketly most of them, I haven't counted, but there seems to be a high prevalence of ignorance as to the HIPAA law that covers what they need to provide. I have other videos on that, so I won't go into it now, but they are under the impression, some of them, that they don't have to provide your records even when you ask for them to go to the SSA or anywhere else. And that's blatantly false. 100% false. There are nuances to that. They do have a separate right that other medical providers do not have, which aggrieves me very much, but they do have a carve out. But that doesn't mean they can refuse to send you the record set exclusive of their little psychotherapy notes. And that's psychotherapy notes. That's not mental status examination notes. There's a difference. Valerie says, she said I'm getting all of January's payments. Mine, oh, she said she's taking 57 again. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So she didn't do her job for December, and she says she's taking the fee for December. Gotcha. December payment was for December. No. The payment you got, unless we're misunderstanding, the payment you got in December for SSD, what was owed for you for SSD from November. So now this still seems to be a problem though, because if she's taking a payment if she takes a payment in January, saying it's because the January payment you get is December's payment, you just receive it in January, and you know she didn't do any of the work on the December, or very little, on the December pay, in terms of paying your bills, then she didn't earn that December fee. And she, I would say to her, you didn't pay the bills. So do you want me to write to Social Security and ask them if you should still be paid? I mean, you could say it kind of nice, like, not like, I'm going to tell them on you and da-da-da. You could say, I think maybe we should ask SSA because I don't think you're supposed to get a fee for December since you didn't pay my bills with the monies from December. And so you can always say it like that, like, well, listen, I'll ask the SSA, and they'll figure it out eventually. And sometimes people are like, oh, I don't really want the SSA up my butt. I always say, don't get that SSA cog. Maybe broach it that way. Like, listen, it is my understanding that if your pay for December's work is taken out of December's pay, which comes in January, you don't get any of that for paying my bills in December because you did not pay the bills in December. Remember? I have the proof. I know it's easy to forget it was holidays, so no worries, but it is my understanding that you're not getting paid a fee. So I would expect to receive my payment in full, and yeah, that's, maybe broach it that way. I mean, how you broach it is up to you. I'm just thinking you could give her an out and say, I was, discussing it with, you could just say with some Social Security people, and they said how the January pay is for December and that the fee is only earned if the payee paid your bills in December. And they said, if not, the fee's does not appear that the fee is owed, and that fee representative could be in trouble with the SSA. Nobody wants to be in trouble with the SSA. So that might put the fear into her to do right. And for $57, what is her problem? Goodness. Dimple says, thought it was time to change my profile pic. Was late getting here. That's always okay. Like I said, I have to boogie as soon as I can get through these. I'm not gonna be doing that. All right, any more questions? As soon as it's empty, I'm gonna split so I can go try to clean up my living room for my vet. Not that he cares. It's just that there's the dog's ripped up paper towel. I just see it's a train wreck. Was late getting here. I'll probably have to catch up with the replay to see what I missed. Aw, no worries, Dimple. La Lulu says, is there a minimum dollar amount or time frame requirement to notify of independent non-job one-time or occasional earnings during appeal process? Such as that. Well, the thing, I wouldn't really be so hung up on like sporadic things like that. When you file your taxes is when, and you make, $10,000 doing odd house sitting or something. Maybe you have some regulars or something like that. It's going to come from the IRS to the SSA. Now, if you have prevailed on your case and you're doing, you probably only, if you're doing odd jobs that are reportable, I would probably report it, but I wouldn't worry about the real sporadic weird stuff while your claim is pending. If you start doing it on a regular basis, I'm making $800 a month. It's kind of like self-employment. That's considered work. All self-employment is work. So if it's to that point, particularly if you're going to be earning, getting credits and it's enough money for that, I would Yeah, nowhere near SGA. It doesn't have to be. Um, I wouldn't worry about it at this juncture. The credits, if you're going to earn credits, are going to be coming in due time on their schedule with the IRS reporting and all that, and when you file your taxes. I don't know that. Is there a minimum dollar amount? Not on the book, but like I said, if you're making $800 a month doing odd jobs like dog sitting, house sitting, plant watering, some people get hired to water someone's plants while they're gone for 3 weeks in the summer. It's great jobs for disabled people. Um, yeah, I mean, I think if it gets to be something like that and it's regular, I would include it because you would probably really wanting to be updating your work history report just to let them know. I did one this week where there was one self-employment job and a bunch of failed work attempts for like less than a month. So they're the less than 30 days. I don't even want it on a work history report. But I did put it on the work history report in my own little fashion on the front page. Didn't put any of the details on the other pages, but noted them because this is heading for hearing. They are in the hearing materials. Right before the hearing, the SSA or the OHO pulls detailed earnings query. And it's going to show all these little tiny jobs that people forget they had. I earned $1,500 when oh, that's right, I did that Walmart job for like 4 weeks part-time. I totally forgot about that. Or 2 weeks full-time. I wanted it in there so that because we're heading to hearing, there would be less time having to be wasted, potentially, by the judge having to ask about each and every job that he finds in the he probably looks at the same document. We don't get that well before hearing. We get that right before hearing. So it's kind of something I scramble to. And, in this case, the person didn't remember those jobs and didn't include them on the function report she had done herself. So the other day, we went through it and really got into the details and made sure those were all listed. So, and it says less than 30 days. Like, I add things I didn't ask for because I want to get that information in front of the judge. So that way, if it comes up with the judge, by the way, we sent you an amended work history report, and all these things are noted. The ones that are less than 30 days. One was longer than 30 days, but it was only 1 day a week, and it was under SGA. So all these different things as to why that whole slew of like 5 or 6 jobs in the last 5 years were not considered past relevant work. There was one past relevant work job. That's it. So that was the goal of that. All right. Cruising along here. Yeah, SSD. Yep. I was thinking SSD also. Well, not specifically, but SSI is a whole nother open can of worms because then you have to subtract out $1 for getting started. Fan Cave said, I would suggest an ABLE account, which does not count as an asset for most public assistance programs and can be used for disability expenses. You guys should look into that if you're young enough, for sure. I'm sure there are pros and cons. I don't know much about it. I was thinking of doing a very general video on it, though. Maybe I will do a little research, get it out there. It's good. That would be for SSI people. Not for SSD. You guys can earn whatever, you can intake whatever wealth you want. You just can't be able to work for it. Beyond, you can work and save, but you have to be under SGA and still fall within the disabled parameters. Kushner and Kushner, best disability lawyers. Oh, that's cool. What are you coming to do? Spamming on my channel there, Tom B? That's all right. The more good disability lawyers there are, the better, because we have plenty of bad ones. Dimple says, since I have a monthly treatment plan with my rheumatologist, awesome, should each appointment be updated with the SSA even after informing them of continued treatment? I don't know if you're going to necessarily do it every month. And I'm trying to think how we do it. Like, we periodically go, there's that whole message thread in our portal, guys, for those. We have a particular portal that some of my lawyer colleagues use, and there's a ability for all these. There's a messaging center, and you can have a message that's titled this, and then you can just keep adding to it, like back and forth or not. And we have one for every client that's called medical visits updates or something like that, a continuing thread. And that is where the client, every time they come back from a visit, just put it in there, put it in there. And we kind of gauge, you know, we don't necessarily want to be sending a letter every day to the SSA, but, you know, if someone's going to 15 appointments in a month, we're going to be sending them that out certainly every month to let the SSA know, hey, there's these 3 visits came in, you know, or 50. A lot of times the adjudicator, if someone doesn't have such a robust treatment schedule, will reach out to us and say, hey, has the client, and I'll look there. Or whoever is responding will look in that thread to see where, you know, has the person been treating. And we even put a little thing in there when we have recognized the above and it's handled, which generally means it not only was the adjudicator notified, but it's been worked into our other ongoing bills, because we kind of start building in a way that will work towards our brief if we have to go to hearing. So nothing's kind of left for last minute. It's kind of an unusual process. I've been developing it for a while now, and I've been working really hard on it. Additionally, in some other ways these last few months, but just like a way where it can always be, you're never just like sitting, you know. So again, you know, it's also possible to say, and I just don't know the adjudicator is going to follow this though. Hey, I see this rheumatologist every month. I mean, it's not a bad thing to say. I don't know that they're going to be ordering your records every month. But they do order them, and if they haven't already, they will soon. And if they don't, then we step in. The reason being, we can't do duplicates. We're not supposed to do duplicates. So we don't want to order what they're ordering until we find out that they can't. So it's another kind of a babysitting job that we have to do on them, but don't really want to violate the duplication rule if I can avoid it. I mean, there is some leeway, I think, at the initial and recon, and definitely not at the OHO. But last thing we need is them to get stricter on that. So we definitely make great effort not to abuse it. MD says, in addition to the known risks, I'm on prescription lorazepam for decades, and pain pills cannot be taken. Also, I'm alone and have no help during recovery. Oh my God. That is a big, huge reason right there, MD. You just said it. I'm alone, and who's going to help me in recovery? Because you can't, I forget what kind of surgery it was, but you can't, it was back surgery, right? I would be very nervous about having back surgery and not having, unless they're going to put you in a rehab for recovery, which that can happen too. But yeah, home health only once a week. I mean, what if you need help getting to the bathroom? Or, you know, no help. Yeah. Why, I'm curious why pain pills cannot be taken. Granted, maybe there's a lot of good reasons why pain pills can't be taken. You could get these all focused into, I'm a high risk person for this surgery because, and you've touched on a few right there. Yeah, I think the living alone is big. To me, it is anyway. I mean, I haven't seen any SSA adjudicators talk about it, but I think it would be a good one. So I would leave that in there. Fancave says the record needs to reflect actual evidence of panic attacks and limitations. Well, and it's funny because what is actual evidence? If a family member fills out a 795 saying, I've witnessed his that's not medical evidence of the panic attacks. That's layperson observation. And therefore it can hold, you know, it may or may not hold much water. If it's robustly described by, I would kind of tend to think, see, there's panic attacks that can be triggered by something, and then there's people who have them, you know, idiosyncratically. And if it's the latter, you would probably have them in front of your therapist on occasion, in the grocery store on occasion. Maybe you don't go to the grocery store but you know, when something only happens in the privacy of your own home, it is a real tough row to hoe to get the proof. But if you're treating for it for years, there's going to be less doubt that you report them, you know, like every time you have one. I mean, I don't just mean one that you feel is coming on and then you go and recluse away. You could talk about that separately. But if you have a full blown and you are cowering in the bathroom for a half hour, that is the kind of thing I think that would show up in your your mental health records, because you would have told your mental health practitioner. That's a complete like decompensation of sorts. So yeah, but so he says, she says, details, I have evidence in the record from my PCP informant therapist plus hospitalizations. Did they witness them? Which is ideal, but not typical. But then if they're treating you for it, you're taking prescriptions for it. I don't know, it was a hospitalization because you lost it and they had to confine you because of an unrelenting panic attack and you had to be involuntarily committed, right? So every case is different. But that's a great share. Thank you, fan. 503 says, guys, we got to blow out. I can't believe it's been an hour and 45. Retry. Forgive me. 57-year-old dad has... Oh, all right. I remember you. I deleted your thing because I wasn't sure if you wanted it up. Has schizophrenia, but has not been treated for last 9 years. Worked on and off. Not sure if eligible for it due to no medical treatment and work credits. Yeah, without the medical treatment, probably can't win because there's no proof that he even has it anymore. I would try to secure, first of all, get him some medical treatment. He might be on medications and be able to function. I mean, he's only 57. He's like practically my age. Yeah. Get him some treatment. Get him diagnosed. Get him some durational treatment. You're going to want to see if medications help. You can't just get ill. There's possible solutions, and then you just don't do them. And that's totally separate and aside from the fact that there's always been an understanding or a stereotype that schizophrenics often go off their meds because they can't stand the feeling of being so blah on their meds. I get it. Whole nother thing. But you'll have to at least be pursuing, I would say. So I don't know if this would be a good time to file. I'm thinking get them started and then file. And then maybe by the time it comes to hearing, if you don't have enough evidence before then or duration, and I would try right now, if you can, 503, get his older records from before 9 years ago. They might still exist. It used to be they used to toss them. They used to always claim there was a fire. Now everything's digital. They might still have them. Hospitals in particular, maybe. I would give that a shot. I would do that now because they probably will disappear if they haven't already. At least it'll give some historical perspective. 9 years of no treatment. That historical perspective, statements as to him being so schizoid out that he didn't go for treatment and refused and wasn't thinking clearly. And then he was gotten back into treatment. That could tie in together. They're not going to give it to him way back, but it could help support that he is now disabled from schizophrenia. At doctor appointment in December due to talking to voices. Yeah, so there's psychosis. Talking to voices. Doc asked if he sees a psych. Dad said no insurance. Okay, your dad has to get on public health, Medicaid. You got to pursue that. He needs help. Someone's going to have to do it for him because he doesn't have the capacity to. And then the evidence is going to start building. So file him for Medicaid in whatever state you are. Doc wrote recommendation for disability, but for wrong diagnosis, schizoid. I don't know if it's a wrong diagnosis or not. Neither do you, really. Just because an old one said something else, things morph, things change, diagnoses get tweaked by the whole medical industrial complex, mental health industrial complex. But my first thing would be, got to get that ball rolling, get that Medicaid insurance and get him rolling. And prayers for your dad. That is not a fun thing to suffer, and it's heartbreaking. And I'm sure it's heartbreaking for you as his child. And you obviously love him. Fan says, we are trying to win on, I have evidence of multiple panic attacks, limitations with self-care, details on the record to back up testimony. Good. My third hearing, I guess it hasn't gone so well so far, but if it's a third hearing on the same case where you remanded, you the one that was remanded twice? Fan continues to say that a particular judge went much better than the two prior with a different judge, and this is in New Hampshire. Okay. I'll leave that up there, of course, but I'm just not going to mention the judges' names because that's between you and everybody else. 503 says, told him to take it to SSA office. Is it worth doing this? Take what to the SSA office? What, the records that he doesn't have? That one little doctor record? No, that's not. No, that won't help. He's going to need a representative. I'm telling you, it's not easy. And he needs a liaison, which could be you. If you want to reach out to my office, if you will be his liaison and we can get that treatment started and everything else, I'll commit to representing him if you can get him to follow the direction. So you're going to have to be on it. So that's an offer. It's a unratified offer. We'd have to talk and I have to get more feel for it. But he's dealing with a really terrible situation, but he does not, in my opinion, have sufficient evidence. We would also be working in other ways in terms of he's probably not 100% as physically fit as he was when he was 20, and we would delve into that too, but he has got to get that Medicaid. Make that call today. Go online for your state's Medicaid medical assistance and work with that and get him on board. That takes a number of weeks, but that's your start. You have to start there. Ooh, Patriot's in the house. Hi, Patriot. Had 2 shoulder replacements with severe pain and limited movement, lots of records. They didn't even mention it in their ruling. They did mention right shoulder, but there's no right shoulder problem. It was left shoulder. Did you get denied? Refresh me. I don't know where we are. Valerie says, thank you for everything, Stephanie. I'm off to the bank. All right, good for you. Fingers crossed you open an account. Thank you, everyone, for putting up with my payee questions. No, thank you for putting them out there, Valerie. I know nothing beyond payees. She knows a lot more than she's letting on. She's very bright. Have a blessed day, everybody. You too. God bless, Valerie. Patriot says, can you add medical problems at hearing level? Yes, absolutely. Get that evidence in, for sure. And I'm trekking along here, guys, because I got to blow out of here. Age change from 46 to 26. Oh, change to 46. Right. I think he's talking about the ABLE account. ABLE account, right, Fan? I knew they were talking about it. So did that change? Yay. And yes, SSD counts because housing, SNAP, and Medicaid also count. I don't know what you're talking about with that part. If you're talking about welfare, yeah, SSD is income, so it would count. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, though. Wonky Woman. Hey, Wonk. Why does one who never worked get AA, I think you said mean SSDI, but others who didn't pay enough in do? Why does one who never worked get, if they never worked, they do not get SSDI on their own work record. If they were a child when they became disabled and never worked, and they can prove that they have been disabled from working since they were under the age of 22, Wonky, then they can file a claim under their parents' work record. Their parent bought the insurance that covers their dependents, including their disabled children that become adults. It's a lot of proving to go back in time, but that's how that would happen. They can't get SSDI on their own work record if they don't have one. They did not buy the insurance, but their father or mother did work and therefore paid for an insurance policy that also said if you get a child who was disabled for the age of 22, that child, if they meet these rules and proofs, can get a child's dependent benefit. It's called DAC, Disabled Adult. What does the C? DAC. Oh, child. I think they started going towards disabled child benefit, but I'm like, but it gets confusing because they're adults and then people mix it up with the children. But so they are not getting it on their own record. They just were blessed to have a parent. Same thing could happen for someone who worked a little bit, got a little bit of credits, but not enough. If they were disabled, but as a child and did not bounce out of a disabled continuity by working SGA on a sustained basis, they too could do that even though they worked on their own a little bit. I think that was your question. It's kind of hard to understand it, but I hopefully, yeah, I know you meant SSDI. Yeah, SSDI. I hope that was your question. Anyway, Fan says, I'm 45, just opened one. Tremol and Fishman is my, oh, they're good. So that's good. And they could take it all the way to federal court too. I said it wrong. Why does someone who never worked get SSDI, but another who worked but lacks credits does not get it? Did I just explain it? The one that gets it did not get his own SSDI. He had a parent who bought the insurance. And if the other guy who worked but didn't get enough credits had a parent that did the same, and he proved it was before age 22, he could get that child benefit off of his parents' records. But if he didn't, the idea is, and you work enough and you have enough credits. So that's probably how that came about. And remember, anyone who has some credits, people, if they are not invalid and can work part-time, they can gain back their SSD wonky by earning credits on a part-time basis, way under SGA, under trial work period amounts as well, and slowly earn those back doing very genteel part-time work. Even self-employment gigger jobs, making widgets, selling potholders that they almost say bad fingers. But yeah, I think I got your question. I hope that answered it. Oh, can't mix pain pills with lorazepam. Well, maybe you want to do something other than lorazepam. That's up to you and your doctors. Is lorazepam more valuable to you in terms of relieving symptoms than the pain? Is the pain not bad enough to need it? Those are all things that get weighed in theory. Dimple says, yeah, I don't want to spend too much into it, but don't want to shortchange myself either. I spent the last couple of days trying to make sure I wasn't duplicating paperwork in my personal files. Well, you know where to report those visits, right? Every single one. And if you duplicate a visit, which you probably won't, because if you do them the same day, what's the chance? Don't worry about it. We'll weed it out. All the paperwork has my head spinning. But you got through the paperwork, right? MD also had double mastectomy in 2014. That tells me MD is of the finer gender. The finer sex. Just kidding. You know, a double mastectomy in 2014, okay, and now have pain and scar tissue. Yeah, I'm sure. I hope that problem in 2014 is behind you. Not fun. With regard to the pain and the scar tissue, do you complain about it to your medical doctor about maybe the tightness, pulling, and stuff like that? And you got to be careful when you twist. You know, might be something to contribute to the record. It's not going to be a big nugget, but AFA, good to see you. Long time no see. Happy New Year. You too. No one to help me in 2026, MD. Yeah, no family, huh? I'm sorry. Prayers for you, MD. Hey, Tom. Good afternoon. Fan says hospitalizations were voluntarily. The second time I was given the option to go myself or an IEA. Involuntary, would that be? 1 in 22. Oh, you already won your benefits. Currently trying to bring onset back. The close period. I'm an MTF trans. I am Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. That would be male to female trans. I am Rebecca. Nice to meet you, Rebecca. Yeah, I mean, you could try. Good luck to you. I mean, you know if you were unable to work or not. Oh, Valerie, that's very sweet. You don't have to do that for asking questions here, but I appreciate the support to the channel and those 1%ers. Fan says, that was Fan, right? Yeah. So Fan says she was remanded twice in federal district court. Okay. All right. So same case. That's pretty awesome. I mean, not awesome that you had to get the remand, but the fact that you won on the FTC. So I remember we did talk about that. I don't recall what your prior screen name was, but that rings a bell for somebody. 503 says, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I will look into Medicaid today when I get off work. Awesome. Shall I start right online? Fan says, able accounts are allowed for certain expenses, allows gifts from family members, etc. over the SSI, Medicaid, etc. asset limits of $2,500. Yeah, I'm curious about what the limits are to the way the money can go out, if at all. I don't know much about it. Dimple, thank you. Let's have a cup of coffee over Zoom. You the best. You the best. Michelle's in the house. Just saying hi and have a great rest of your day. You too, Michelle. All right, guys. Last question. Perfect. We're so timely. 3 minutes to 3 minutes to 3. We're hitting 2 hours. I'm gonna go clean up before Dr. Weiss gets here to take care of my stinky dog. I'm just going to add what Fan said since she's really being helpful sharing information. Able accounts. She says rent, education, living expenses. Okay, so not for fluffy stuff? Like you can't just go give the guy $500, right? Just to go spend. He would do that from his own SSI, presumably, right? Am I getting that right? Yeah. Thank you for that, Fan. I appreciate that, Rebecca. All right, guys. Have a great week. Don't forget the 12 o'clock dailies, please. They're really important to us. Definitely throw out ideas for videos. If you have anything that's pressing that you want to get out, I could do them on something like that. And of course, every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this live stream. Invite anyone who wants to come, and I will chat with you guys later. Have a good one, and Happy New Year.